Imagine the following situation. An elderly widow hides her money under her mattress. For whatever reason, she does not trust banks. And the neighborhood kids find out about this. These kids go to her house when she is not home and they steal some of her money. They don't steal a whole bunch of it or all of it at once. That would be more likely to get them caught. Instead, they just take a little bit here and a little bit there. You, as the neighbor of this elderly widow, discover what these kids are doing. What are you obligated to do? What is your Christian obligation? Clearly, you are required to do something to stop these kids from stealing from this widow. Now, you could report them to the police. That's an option. You could go to their parents and tell them what their kids are doing and to find a way for these kids to pay the elderly widow back. Clearly, what's going on here is wrong. It's theft. It's a violation of the 8th commandment. The same way, when the Federal Reserve increases the money supply 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, whatever it may be, just a little bit, the value, all things being equal, the value of each dollar diminishes by the same percentage. The elderly lady, whether it's kids stealing a little bit here and a little bit there from her, or the Federal Reserve, makes no difference, does it? It's still theft, whether kids do it or the Federal Reserve. If a fiat money system, if a monetary system that is backed by nothing is so bad, then why do so many people advocate for it? Well, some say that a little inflation is necessary and good. They claim that without some inflation, the economy might experience deflation. And deflation is considered worse because it will cause people to spend less. This position is based upon the assumption that consumption or spending, that demand, is what grows the economy. It's very Keynesian in its perspective. It is explained by those who believe that spending, consumption, demand grow the economy, that a person who spends money, let's say spends money at a tailor business, then that tailor who has that money now allows him to spend at a restaurant, and then the restaurant person is able to spend at another store, maybe to buy some clothes. Then those people are able to spend at places they like. All this spending, they say, creates jobs for more people. And more jobs means more spending. And therefore, the economy is experiencing what is referred to as the multiplier effect. All this spending, they say, will cause everyone to get richer. What is missed in this explanation is where the goods come from that we spend our money on. Remember, money is not wealth. It is a medium of exchange, an IOU. To make this simpler, imagine a barter economy where goods are traded directly for other goods. There is no money. How does one consume? How does one spend, trade, to get what he wants? Can you trade and consume a good if you have nothing to offer in exchange? No. Before you are able to receive a product, you must first have something of your own to offer. If you ask someone for a fish, the person with the fish is going to ask what you have to offer in exchange. If you have nothing, then you will not receive the fish. Thus, in order to consume, one must first produce. Production comes before consumption. Consumption, or spending, does not grow an economy. Production does. But what is necessary for production? Human labor, resources like fish, trees, animals. Take human labor and mix it with resources and you get production. The only way to grow an economy is to find ways to increase production, to increase productivity. Now, how does that happen? If all a person has is their hands to produce, that person is not going to be very productive. He will be living in extreme poverty. The only way to change that is to find a way to produce more fish in a shorter amount of time to increase productivity. Now, over time, because of practice, this person's ability to catch fish will improve, but it is still not enough to escape a life dedicated to simply staying alive. Because of scarcity, if the person decides to create a net, mixing labor with vines and other materials needed to produce a net, he won't be catching fish. One cannot catch fish and create a net at the same time. He will have to find a way to save fish. With a little bit of savings, this person can take some time to produce a net. And once the net is finished, the number of fish caught increases tremendously. And because of this, he can eat more, spend less time fishing, and more time building a shelter. gathering berries or coconuts, domesticating wild boars, whatever. Because of his savings, he is able to create tools to help him increase his productivity. With more productivity, he profits time to create other items, thus raising his standard of living. So as one can see, it is not spending, it is not consumption or demand that grow an economy, but savings and production. One more thing about deflation before we wrap this up. Deflation is not necessarily a bad thing. Deflation is a good thing. In a healthy economy that is growing, when businesses are increasing their productivity, and deflation is good. Prices naturally will go down in a healthy economy where productivity is increasing, where businesses are able to find more cost-effective methods in producing their good or their service. They pass on those savings to consumers in terms of lower prices. So even when the average person, anybody, poor, rich, whatever, their wages might not go up, their salary might not go up in nominal terms, but their real wages, their real salaries do increase. What that means is when prices drop because of increased productivity, because businesses are finding more cost-effective methods in offering their good or service, people can buy more. Their buying power increases. They can afford more goods, more services with the same or less amount of money. And that's what happened in the late 1800s and early 1900s in the United States. During the Second Industrial Revolution, productivity was growing tremendously because people were investing in capital, finding better ways to produce their goods, more efficient ways to produce their goods, taking advantage of mass production, of economies of scale. And as a result, supply of goods were growing tremendously and prices were dropping annually. That meant people could afford more with less money. No longer did they have to send their children to factories to supplement family income. No longer did some have to send their children to the coal mines to supplement family income. Because of that increased productivity, because of savings, which allowed for capital investment to get better tools, machines, equipment, productivity increased. Prices dropped. Real wages grew. People's standard of living lifted. So deflation is not necessarily a bad thing. It depends what causes it. Prices dropping because of bad monetary policy, because of a fiat currency that increases the money supply arbitrarily, sending false signals to businessmen, leading to misallocation of resources, which eventually leads to the bust that causes the dropping of prices. Though necessary, that's painful. Prices dropping because of a healthy growing economy where productivity increases to a certain extent that prices drop, that's good. So that is just a short explanation in defense of deflation to a certain extent. A lot more can be said about this, of course, but just keep in mind, deflation in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing. It's a good thing. I, for one, enjoy when things become more and more affordable.